So this episode is a pretty special one because we are just a week away from heading to Baton Rouge, Louisiana for Crop.
It's so close.
It's going to be so much. I'm excited about the food and fun hangs and great conversations and great, just a fun time. So, but we figured for this episode, we would revisit a conversation that we had with the creator of Crop Conference, Matt Dawson. He is a super rad guy, humble, chill, just so quiet. But
let me interject on that.
Yeah.
That is the thing that most stood out to me in this interview is how much Matt has going on. Yeah. And how just laid back the guy is.
I know. You would never know
he
that.
He is in control.
Dude, my head would explode if I had to do as much as he does, but he is so chill.
Yeah. He just said, hey, this seems like a good idea. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And so anyway, you'll listen to this interview and you will pull something away from it. And if you haven't already gotten your tickets to Crop and you're close enough that you can maybe make a jaunt over, head on over to Crop. We're going to be podcasting live from that event. But man, without further ado,
cropbr.com. Get tickets.
Dawson. Welcome back to the show.
All right.
Look at you! You gave yourself the heartiest clap, and I love it. It's
Matt.
I wanted to fill in that audio a little bit better. So
yeah, really, just ask Luke. He'll add anything in post.
Yeah, he can put like a clap track in.
Yeah, some little stingers and that sounds good.
It's not uncommon for Patrick to fall asleep halfway through an episode, and so he just edits together other audio bits from Patrick to fill out the episode.
A lot of
There's no proof that this is me right now.
Yeah, lots of interrupting things, and yeah, that's it. Then that's mostly what Patrick his audio bits sound like.
Nice.
So tell everybody who you are, what you do. Give us the little Wikipedia page about yourself.
Like you said, Andrew, my name is Matt Dawson. I'm a graphic designer by trade. I don't really consider myself a creative or anything like that. I'm a traditional graphic designer. Lots of branding and, layout and logo work and posters and all that stuff. I've been designing for about 11 years now. Kind of hit the ground running, and I haven't looked back. I figured if I'm not tired of it by now, I won't be anytime soon.
You're doing something right?
Yeah. It's what's that saying? Like, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
I mean, I still work, but I also love it.
So yours is also kind of like as long as you just do what you don't hate.
Yeah. That's probably a little more.
Just stay away from things that you hate.
Yeah,
that's a good mantra for everybody.
For sure. But I've been in the industry for about, a little over 10 years now. Recently in the past, we're gearing up for our second one, but in the past 2 years, I decided to start a conference down in my home state of Louisiana, called Crop. There's just no outlet for anything, anything of that magnitude down there. And there's so much talent that, a couple of years ago, my wife and I were brainstorming some ideas, and, we figured it was a ripe time to do something down there and, kind of showcase, the amount of talent that there is down there and the amount of hunger and thirst that, a lot of young designers and creative people have, and old designers and creative people.
So let me ask this question then. You said it was kind of underrepresented, and you're bringing that about because you felt this lack of or a need for. Isn't Louisiana, and maybe specifically New Orleans, but isn't Louisiana kind of known for the art, like the art scene and kind of the folksy, that whole deal? Isn't it very like traditionally known as being artistic?
New Orleans especially, yeah. But it's always been more music and traditional kind of fine arts based, like that's a lot of what you hear about the arts and, culture scene, is New Orleans music and fine art. But, just like the past few years, we've just watched the creative, scene explode with, designers and new agencies and people striking out on their own. and businesses actually wanting to look good and like hiring people that know what they're doing to, you know, give them the best face forward. So, you know, like it just seemed like such a perfect time.
I mean, yeah, that seems like that makes a lot of sense if they're hiring people out to do that stuff. So I'm looking through your portfolio. And so just to be clear, you don't go by Matt Dawson. Like for people, like your moniker is something maybe slightly more memorable. Maybe tell everybody what your moniker that you go by.
So online, my website and my Instagram handle is Stay Gray Ponyboy. So on Instagram, I'm at Stay Gray Ponyboy, and my portfolio is staygrayponyboy.com. And it is. I guess it is memorable. And I've just never had a desire to really, you know, like Matt Dawson design.biz or .gov or whatever.
I think they're pretty stingy on the .govs, though. I mean, so to be fair, I think you're probably safe on that one.
So yeah, that's worked pretty well for standing out. You know, I answer the question a few times a week, so I've gotten pretty well versed in it.
Dude, I want to real quick jump back to something you said right at the beginning. You made the comment that you don't consider yourself a creative. Can you elaborate on what that means to you?
It's just so broad. Whenever I meet people, I like to know what they do. You know, like I love the term and I use it, you know, a lot of the times. But whenever I'm introing myself, you know, I like to get down to the nitty gritty and be like, hey, I'm a graphic designer, you know. So you take it as it's too broad, or do you take it as it's too broad?
It's not that you don't consider yourself creative. You just think that you have a more specific. I think Josh Ariza said something very similar when we talked to him a couple weeks ago. He said something almost to that exact effect. Like, I'm the truest sense of whatever this is, not whatever it's become, you know, to people. And so I think that's a fair assessment. And we're starting to hear that maybe more regularly. So maybe there's a resurgence in trying to like take back the job description and not be so ambiguous or something. Well,
yeah, see, like, I totally agree with that, because, you know, like it seems like that term has like kind of blown up in the past few years to where like you just get this net moniker as like, oh, he's a creative, but like I want to know what he does. So that's kind of why I make sure to, you know, clear it up with myself.
So looking through your projects, because there's a lot to look at. Your Instagram, gosh, there's so much goodness on here. So for someone that's checking out your work for the first time, but you also mix it in with a lot of stuff that's also from like friends and things like that as well. So what's a piece you would want to draw someone to from your feed that you really think represents like the work you do or represents you really well?
Wow, I'd have to look at my feed. Yeah, it is kind of everywhere. I try to feature, you know, most of my own work. You know, every now and then if I get something in the mail, you know, from somebody, you know, I ordered some pins or patches, you know, like I like to give little shout outs there. I think anything with typography in it is probably what most people associate with me. I do a lot of type heavy pieces. My logos and branding projects are generally pretty, you know, monogram heavy and type heavy. And I also do the Type Combo Tuesday thing, which, you know, people like every now and then people meet me and connect the dots and be like, oh, you're a Type Combo Tuesday guy. And, yeah.
So, okay. So I'm not actually even aware of what that is. So tell me, I'm very intrigued by the Type Combo Tuesday. Tell me about that.
Type Combo Tuesday is this little thing I started a couple years ago. I think my background in publishing and like working with type, you know, like with headlines and body copy and subheads and tags and all that stuff. I feel like it helped me kind of, you know, cut my teeth in hierarchy and, you know, pairing type and what type works well together. So I started giving these talks to schools and organizations. And it was about, you know, like the first half was kind of, you know, like your your black and white, like typography rules. And then the second half, like everybody would wake up and get all excited because they were like type combinations. So, they'd be excited about getting, fresh type combos, and, like everybody's all of a sudden like writing things down that I'm saying and not just kind of glossing over. So I was like, hey, people actually have an interest in this. I'm going to continue to pursue it. And, I'd shied away from social media for a while. And, after I decided to do the type combo thing, I was like, well, Instagram seems like a perfect venue. So, that's kind of how it was born online, and how it's presented now.
So, like, here's a thing that you talk about the type. Are you okay, Patrick?
I'm great. It was like 3 things happened at one time, and it was almost a mess. We're all good.
Okay, we're good. I'm so sad right now. This is an audio podcast because no one got to see what we just got to experience.
Thankfully, we haven't fully kicked in that Patreon tier yet. So thankfully, there's no video evidence.
Let's just hope we can reinvent that again when we do have the video. But you talk about the type, and I go through your Instagram, and I totally see that. And you have a knack for pulling out really unique pairings, and I think it's maybe a little bit what you were just talking about, like with the heading, subheading, that whole deal. You pull out these really unique headings, or these really unique pairings of fonts, and you put them together in really simple, but yet not so simple ways. Like there's not a ton going on necessarily, but what you do with just the way that you mash them together, or the way that you stack them, or whatever, you use a lot of really, what I would consider, like, I've seen some of these fonts like just out there in the world, right? Mm-hmm. But like, I probably would never have picked them because they didn't seem like they were quote unquote special enough, or they were too whatever. But then when I see you do them, I'm like, oh no, that looks really good. I'm like, oh, I've seen that font 1,000 times.
Yeah.
But the way that you put them together is incredible. And so we have something in common besides the fact that we met up when you were in Creative South. We're all friends with Mr. Aaron Draplin, mm-hmm. right? And as of recent past, you got a nice little shout out from Mr. Draplin. Tell us that story.
Was it from a few weeks ago?
Yeah,
it's 2 weeks ago, actually. Yeah,
a couple weeks ago. So, I was fortunate enough to be vending right next to him at TopCon with my buddy Jason Craig. Jason was presenting that day, and we had a little merch table that we were sharing, and Draplin was next to us, and he spoke at our conference this past April. So I've been kind of like in contact, and see him here and there, and I'd traded him a pen for a poster, which is not a good deal at all on his end. I mean, he's getting a 1-inch enamel pen, and I'm getting a 18 by 24 poster. But he really dug the little USA type that I had made, and I finally bit the bullet and got some enamel pens made. I'm glad I did. But the next day he posted a picture of his shirt with my USA pen on there, and my buddy Daniel Hare's pen. And it's just like a really, the pen. And it was just like a really nice little, kind of shout out. Just didn't have to do it, but like he did, and just kind of like, it's like, whoa, that's pretty amazing.
Well, and what he specifically said in it was really special. Like the thing that he said, he's like, 2 things that I'll hold close. Yeah, and vivid. Yeah, he paints quite a word picture. But talks about how he's not gonna take this thing off because he loves it so much. That's an incredible. I mean, that's high praise from the man who is known for logo creation, and for the man who is more and more becoming kind of the quintessential progressive American designer. Mm-hmm. And he's wearing your USA pin and saying that it's one of his favorite things, and it's not going to take it off of his jacket. That's huge. And I hope you felt like the hugeness of that, and felt honored and proud in that moment. Because I mean, I look at it and it's an incredible pin, and it's so simple.
Yeah, that design is so good and so clean. It's just awesome, dude.
I'm gonna have to send you guys some.
And that's
Deal.
really what this is all about. We wanted to pump you up so we would get free pins.
Nailed it.
Well,
But also, can you talk to your buddy about the pin? Because I also want that.
So I will say you've made me more depressed because, well, I mean, it's not like we weren't doing something amazing. We were at Reimagine, but the weekend we were going to Reimagine was the weekend of TopCon, and Chattanooga is my hometown right now. That's like where I'm stationed out of. And I was really sad that I didn't get to, like, everyone finally came to my hometown. And then I didn't get to hang out with anybody.
And you were in California.
And I was in California. So you just made me more depressed. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
I would like to follow up. This is with the type conversation and also with the conference talk. The first conference we met you at was Creative South. That's where we saw you first. And there was this wonderful lady that spoke, Miss Bethany Heck.
Oh, yeah.
And she's a bit of a type person. And I'm curious, just to start a small fight, I'm curious of your feelings with, did you get a chance to hear her talk while she was there?
Oh yeah. Honestly, Beth's talk was one of the main ones for CS this year that I was stoked on. I couldn't wait to see hers.
Yeah.
And so I'm just curious. So one thing, she actually gave us her business card. And I want to say, Andrew, what was it? She uses like 7 different types, 5 on her business card.
There's a lot. There's more than most people would be daring enough to do, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing so we were actually, I think, manning a booth. I didn't get to see the talk, but we talked to her on the show. We've actually talked to her twice on the podcast, and she kind of went over kind of what it was all about. And from what I understand, a lot of it was just kind of breaking these taboos in the type world and not limiting yourself because of some arbitrary rule, but actually doing what works the best for the piece and things like that. And so she'll, instead of using like a super font or something, she'll pair 3 or 4 or 5 fonts together to come up with a finished piece, but it all looks very cohesive and like it's one thing. And I'm curious your thoughts on that subject. You said you were really excited for her talk. I mean, do you fall in the same camp that she does when it comes to using type?
I think I do. A lot of times, you get asked, like what's right and wrong, and my usual answer to that is like there really is no right and wrong. There's just varying degrees of efficiency, Sure. So if it gets it across, and you've got it set in the worst typefaces imaginable, I mean, you got your point across. So is it really wrong? It's probably not the best experience for the person that had to read it. But, I think if you can balance that 8, 9 typefaces, like whatever it is, and make it as harmonious as Beth does, then, yeah, totally go for it. I think her, I don't know, I think her talk was great. And I think, all of her type stuff I've been a fan of for years.
Her stuff is killer. Every time I see her Instagram, I get jealous that I don't own the things she's taking photographs of. That's really what it boils down to for me.
No, her like even her personal style and like all of her baseball ephemera, like it's awesome.
It's beautiful. So and then she's working for Vox now, I believe. She's like one of the creative leads over at Vox, which is super cool. We need to talk to her again,
Very
I guess.
So
no longer at Microsoft.
Yeah, we definitely need to have her on. But right now we have Matt on. So Matt, you are a designer, but then you transitioned into a conference putter honor. That's an official title. I don't know if you realize that. Tell us a little bit about, I mean, you mentioned a little bit of kind of why you chose Louisiana, but like what made you like want to take that on personally rather than just, suggest that somebody else does it? Like why did you do it?
I think a lot of it is to, continually challenge myself. Mm-hmm. Like I just turned 35 last week, and
happy birthday.
Thank you. But like at this stage of my life, I just kind of want some ownership on something, and like just want to keep pushing myself. Like I don't want to get like as a young designer, I never wanted to get to 30, 35, 40 and have kind of stopped.
Sure.
You know, so if I can give myself projects, whether they be, you know, a gig poster for somebody or a branding package or an entire conference, you know, like I'm gonna take that on.
Okay, so
I love that you go from gig poster to an entire conference
for 350 people, just a full experience. Okay, so tell us, you know, a few of us have been to conferences, but there's honestly a lot of people that are listening that they hear about them, but they don't go. I mean, in our Slack community, we're constantly encouraging people to like take the opportunity, and it really anything. It's just so beneficial to be in a room with other creatives, like having community. It does so much for you. But really tell people like what is crop? What's someone gonna get out of coming to it? Like what's the big win for someone being there?
You know, I think it's just that. I think you pretty much nailed it. It's getting away from your desk or your office or workspace, and it's getting out there and being around other designers. You know, it's building relationships and community and friendship. And at the same time, you know, like you've also got some pretty killer workshops and speakers going on, you know, so you also get some real world learning. And you get inspiration and stories from, you know, some pretty big names in the industry, but it's also not so big to where like you can't go have a beer with them at the after party and, you know, pick their brain on this. You know, so like we love the small scale of it, you know, like our cap is pretty much set by our venue. It's 325. You know, so we were fortunate enough to sell that out in our first year. And you know, people are hungry for the second year. So I feel like we did it right. I was a little reluctant to try to do anything too different this year because, you know, I wanted to learn from any mistakes and,
yeah, absolutely.
Just polish out some rough spots, which luckily there weren't too many.
Yeah.
How long? So in putting on the conference, that's, you know, we've been part of them as far as like putting on podcasts at them. We've talked, you know, very surface level about putting our own on at one point and kind of waited, pumped the brakes because as we started talking, that's a whole lot more work. So like what kind of learning curve was that for you, you know, when you guys started?
It's definitely the biggest thing that we've ever done. And my wife and I, we do it together. You know, we have a little business called Studio Gray. Yeah. And through Studio Gray, we present crop.
Cool.
You know, we've been fortunate enough to be a part of event planning committees for, you know, almost 15 years now. So while they've been different types of events, the same principles apply, you know, securing a venue, figuring out everything that venue has to offer, security, sanitation, you know, setting up partner hotels. The biggest curve for me was, you know, reaching out to some of these designers that are, you know, larger than life and hey, will you come to my conference? Like,
right.
You know, like that to me was the toughest part. And then, you know, like you get a couple under your belt and you're like, okay, well, this isn't as bad as I thought.
Well, right. You just said you had Draplin your first year, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So it totally worked out.
It did. It definitely worked out. Yeah. That was an intense phone call. But, a good one.
There's nothing that you can do with Draplin that's not intense. But it always works out in the best way, I think. At least it has for us. I don't know about your experience.
No, he answered the I saw Portland, Oregon come up on my caller ID, and, you know, like I answered it and he's like, "Okay, now calm down." Like he just went straight into, you know, Draplin mode. And,
I could totally picture that too. All right. So you said that part of starting this conference was to challenge yourself and that you wanted something that you really owned, as you age and become more weathered in life, that you had something that you could own. But I'm also hearing this underlying thing, that you're not necessarily saying, but is absolutely true about you. I see this care for the community. And I see this care for this thing that you love so much, and the design world and the creative field and the industry. I see this care come through because you also talked about doing those, like the I'm going to totally stumble over what it is. The Tuesday type stuff. What's it called again?
Type Combo Tuesday.
Type Combo Tuesday. And that was kind of spawned and birthed out of this idea of educating and bringing that stuff about and having these talks where you're helping bring people. So how much does the care for the community and educating people about either techniques or industry things or just connecting other artists to other artists, how much does that play into this whole deal too?
I mean, it's pretty much the backbone of it, you know. There is a lot of care behind what I do, and, you know, at risk of sounding like a Hallmark card, you know, I wouldn't be where I am without people taking the time to, you know, help me cultivate as like a designer and, you know, like a professional. So, you know, like whenever there aren't an abundance of resources, being able to provide one for, you know, for people that have talent and just maybe not the right paths to fully explore that, being able to provide a venue for that, you know, like that's awesome, you know?
Yeah.
So let me follow that up with this. For people who are listening to the show, and there's this idea that designers, creatives, artists, this one underlying thing, no matter what field you're in, when you create something new from nothing, that's part of the creative process. That's part of, developing something tangible to either help people's lives, create beauty in the world, whatever it is, fill in the gap for whatever the reason you're creating something. What would you tell somebody who's sitting out there right now, who's in a state or in a city or in a whatever, and doesn't feel like they have that community of people around them, and they're just itching to do what you just said, create a community of people who lend a hand with each other, who support each other, who have each other's backs, who make each other better. What would you say to a person who's sitting there thinking, that sounds incredible and I would love to have something like that, but I don't even know where to start?
Yeah, well, I mean, you just need to do a little research, see if there's anything regional like that to where you can go and kind of, quench that thirst. If there's nothing regional and you can't really travel to something that's farther away. Dribble is a great place to start. If you want to host a Dribble meetup, all you have to do is apply for it, which is not a strict or strenuous application process. They'll send you a box of goodies and they'll put it on their site and help you promote it. And, you might not realize that, a designer across town had been wanting to do the same thing. So they're stoked that there's a Dribble meetup in the city. And, you do it at a bar, you do it at a restaurant, you do it at, anywhere. But, yeah, I mean,
it's not Ruby Tuesday.
Yeah, maybe not a Ruby Tuesdays.
No one will show up. Creatives hate Ruby Tuesday, so
yeah.
Obviously, a bar or a coffee shop. That's it.
I don't know, man. That salad bar is pretty legit.
In Chattanooga they're too pretentious. I feel like I'm in the community,
man,
so I
think you
can
hit
say
a nerve,
this.
man.
Is Chattanooga pretentious?
Bro, don't hold it at a Starbucks. No one else will show up. Cody won't be there. That's for sure. So. It's got to be somewhere way fancier than that.
Is that Cody Odie?
Yes, exactly. Cody. Okay, I work with Cody. You know him?
I had lunch with him at TopCon, and okay. So do you work with Russ Pate as well?
I do. Yes, Russ sits 2 desks down from me. That's right.
Okay, nice. Well, I went to the kickoff party at your workplace a few weeks ago. So.
That's right, at Whiteboard. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so. Nice. Those are all my people, but again, super pretentious.
Communities colliding.
If I only get 1 point across, specifically about Cody, that's what I'd want to communicate.
Yeah, we're gonna actually cut the rest of this interview. There's gonna be a 3-minute audio bit that's just Patrick talking about how much he hates the people he works with.
Well, dude, I didn't say I hate them. That's not at all what I said. Listen, Russ. Listen, I will say this: Russ is like the guy that knows everyone. Like. More and more I talk to artists and he's just like, oh yeah, I've had lunch with that dude. No, oh, I've had blah, blah, blah with that dude. Or, anyway, he's like,
shawarma,
he's the connector.
A
lot of shawarma, yeah. So we'll do this then. This is like a really natural next step. How do people actually like find out about Crop and go to Crop? And I mean, are tickets for sale now? Are tickets available? What's the process?
Yeah, tickets are still available. We have 2 packages. We have a 2-day VIP package. Those sold out in 2 weeks. But we've still got plenty of Friday tickets left. And Friday is kind of the main day. That's when all of our national speakers are coming in. You can go to cropbr.com and you can register for a Friday ticket there. Come on down to Baton Rouge for a couple days. We'll have a kickoff party and we'll have, the full day of Friday speakers, and then we'll have a wrap party that night. And we've got a pretty killer lineup and, a couple surprises here and there. One that I just found out about this weekend that I'm itching to share, but can't just yet.
We'll just wait until we're off air. Hey, I just realized looking through the speaker list, Tony Diaz.
Yes,
he's going to be there. He's the artist of that print behind your head.
Exactly.
Super excited.
Yeah.
I wonder if he still has number 1 available.
I think it's sold in order.
What about the test print? I'll take the test print.
That's $0.
Yeah.
Nice. If I got number 1, I would have just sold it for a $49 profit. I feel like that would have been my play on that.
That's why Patrick is a worse person than us. So this whole thing looks incredible. It looks super cool. If you're in the area, and even if you're not in the area and you need a place to connect with people, honestly, these smaller conferences like this, would you call it more like a boutique conference? I've heard that term thrown around a little bit, but I don't know what actually defines it as a boutique conference.
I've never heard it, but I kind of like it.
Okay, well, you can have it. I made it up. So, as far as we're concerned, I just made that up. But these areas are more and more, I feel like, where you have the exchange you guys just had. Where it's like, oh, so-and-so, I had lunch with them at this conference. And, you have that connection that you don't get at things like San Diego Comic-Con. Right. And these massive, or like South by Southwest.
You should talk to this guy. He's over here.
Yeah. I think if you're looking for something like that and you are either on your own as a freelancer or designer, or you're looking to get that way, these kinds of conferences are a great way to invest in yourself.
Yeah,
and
I think also because you walk away from it like knowing nearly everybody's name. I mean, I think that's 325 people, still a lot of people, don't get me wrong, but it's like manageable that you can actually like see everyone that's there and run into everyone. I mean, if you get these like several thousand people, then you could be there for a whole weekend and have no idea that your buddy was across the room or that so-and-so was there, and you could totally miss them. So I think that's a really cool part of that. The community is there, but also like you said, the community is accessible. You can actually get a beer with someone or have lunch with someone, and that's really cool.
Right. And we try to give people plenty of opportunities, like between the whole thing, there's 4 events, so like you've got plenty of FaceTime with people between, the workshop day, the party that night, the full day next day with like the vendor areas, and then the party that night. So there's a lot of opportunity to, see somebody and actually catch up with them later and not just say, oh, we'll catch up later.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna shift us into our final questions so that we can be aware of your time and make this bite size. So I'll start, and then they can take it from there. The crop logo, I love it. That's a statement. That's not the question. Tell me about the development of that logo.
So the crop mark, it's that little C thing that also looks like the crop tool, and there's also an L and an A hidden in there. To this date, it's been like my most challenging mark to work on. I think because I started it off with so much pressure, because I'm literally designing for an event for designers, and a lot of eyes. So yeah, that mark came from just tons and tons of sketches and a really nasty artboard. With like some terrible options that'll never see the light of day. And, it finally just struck me, like, oh, here's the L and here's the A and here's the, like 2 little corners with the crop thing and it's a C. It was just kind of like lightning in a bottle.
I didn't even see the L and the A, and I pride myself on finding things like that. And now that I see it, I can't unsee it, and I love it. It's an incredible mark. And I love when things that are striking and that are cool also carry with it this deep sense of meaning. And I love that this wasn't something you just whipped up. I love that you put a lot of care and attention into it. I love that you challenged yourself, and I think that's healthy pressure. It makes the end product better. It's a better thing for everybody because you took the pressure of the industry and your peers and the people who you knew would be looking at it. And let's be honest, designers have critical eyes, and said, I want to put out my absolute best on this thing, and you turned out something great. Now, hopefully you didn't get an ulcer over it. That would maybe bridge on unhealthy, but I love it, dude.
It would literally be unhealthy, but yes.
Yeah, it would be unhealthy. But you killed it. So
Thanks,
that was my
I really
question.
Appreciate that.
Well, I will take it next.
Okay.
You don't want to be the last person to ask the question because then there's so much pressure for it to be good.
No. Yeah.
So, rookie mistake.
This next question is Luke's crop logo.
So you've been doing this for a while, right? Like you kind of have the demeanor of someone that's like seen some stuff. And I'm curious if you have a favorite client interaction. So over all your years of designing marks and in doing branding and in graphic design, whatever, if you have a client interaction that stands out to you, either because something ridiculously bad happened or ridiculously amazing, just what's the moment that stands out?
I'm not sure if I have any particular moments that stand out. I have a recurring moment with many clients that stands out in a not so pleasant way.
Perfect. That one sounds great.
Well, I do, like I said earlier, I do a fair amount of branding projects, and I'll give them the 3 to 5 options, and then like every time, maybe this comes from the South, but after they get the proofs, they want to play logo gumbo, where they mix them all up. And they're okay, well, take this from page 1 and put it with this from page 3, and we like to type from page 4, and like all of a sudden they're a designer, and I'm if y'all know how to get out of that, let me know, because I've been trying to overcome that client interaction for a while.
I like the phrase logo gumbo. Is that like a known phrase?
No, it's Louisiana, man.
Yeah. It's
that's straight from the bayou.
Yeah.
Wait. I want an addendum on this. So Stay Gray Ponyboy I'm assuming, otherwise this is a very just strange coincidence, it's a play off of the popular phrase Stay Gold Ponyboy from The Outsiders.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so why Stay Gray?
So Gray is kind of like a family name as well. It's our daughter's middle name.
Okay.
So whenever we started a business, we wanted something, that kind of had some meaning behind it, except Perfect. It was really tough to get a URL. So we did some brainstorming and came up with Stay Gray Ponyboy as a URL, and it became our online name. And yeah.
And history was made. All right, sorry, Luke.
No, it's fine. So yeah, my last question, as Patrick mentioned, you have been doing this graphic design for a while, and you have probably a pretty wide range of clients. What's a brand or client that you haven't worked with yet, or even a kind of genre maybe that you're like wanting to get in and get dirty with and work with?
I've really been wanting to tackle some UI. Okay. And I haven't really had anything come across my plate. But I love the way that web and a lot of UI stuff is kind of like, it functions almost a little more like print nowadays.
Yeah.
Like it's simple layouts, and like it I don't know. I'm kind of fascinated by where that's going. And I would love to.
You need to connect with Shane Helm.
Shane Helm? Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, or Patrick.
Oh no, I'm just a developer. I don't do anything. Yep. I just designers do all the tough stuff.
He could do the UI.
He should connect with Russ or Cody. That would be the answer.
That actually makes more sense.
It would make more sense to connect to Russ or Cody. That would make the most sense.
That's true.
But yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, finish up your thought.
No, this is your show. You get to finish it up.
No, I just love how simplified it's become. Something that was like once scary.
Yeah.
You know, like has become like simple and elegant. And you know, like the functionality behind it, like that. Just like I think exploring that entire process would just be, you know, it would be different. It'd be a fun experience to have.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely. As a guy who's done a couple of websites in the past and like designed them, not developed them, but designed them, and then now knowing where we are now, I used to be so limited to what I could do, and now I look at it and think, if I had time to design websites, I would love to now, because you could do it almost like you're publishing anything, you know, like a cool anything print. It translates now almost 1-to-1 for web, and that's an exciting thing. It's an exciting time. Tell everybody where they can find you, where they can support what you're doing. They can see your personal work. They can get on Crop and all that stuff.
Okay. To see my most up-to-date work, hop on Instagram and go to @Stay Gray Ponyboy. I keep a pretty much running tab of current projects, and you can keep up with me there. My portfolio is staygrayponyboy.com. It is sorely outdated, so you know I should update that more often. Cropbr.com is where you can go and find out all about Crop 2017 and check out our lineup and register if you choose to do so.
I'll tell you, I mean, just going back and looking at your stuff, your work is so good. And I know that for people who are listening, this is an audio deal. They can't see you. And if they're in the car, they haven't seen your work yet or whatever, maybe. Your demeanor, the way in which you talk, and you're just very chill and very somber, does not reflect in the work you do. The work you do is packed full of energy, packed full of really cool, creative ideas. And if you're listening to this, go and check out his work. It is super, super cool. I'm envious looking at it, but also honored to be able to chat with you. So,
thanks, man. I appreciate that.
So that's it for that interview. Man, if you don't take something away, that means you weren't listening. Matt is a super cool and rad dude, so we can't wait to hang out with him next week. With that being said, if you are going to make it to Crop, head on over. Let us know that you're going to be there, and we will hang out. We'll go get some beignets together.
Yeah.
But the week after that, we will be at Creative South in Columbus, Georgia, where we have a workshop. Patrick, tell everybody about the workshop.
It's a workshop for all things podcasting for all people. So learn how to do it, learn how to be better at it, learn how to make money doing it. These are all topics that we'll cover in depth. We have some great resources to give you. We have giveaways. We have special coupons, because that's still a word in my vocabulary. So make it big, make it a big time. If you're going to be out there, do it all. Pick up a workshop ticket, limited space. It's small, it's intimate, but it's valuable.
It is.
Make a good time.
CreativeSouth.com. That's where you can get your ticket to that. You can find show notes and links to the stuff we talked about right below us if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're listening to this on any of our other audio channels, it's going to be at mof1podcast.com. While you're there, you can find an archive of several of the people who are going to be speaking at this year's Crop. You can go back and listen to some of their interviews with us. Man, it's going to be a huge, huge time. Fun time? It's not big a huge time. Big time. It's going to be a big time, fun time. But head over to our archive to find so many talented people who have taken time, just like Matt, to chat with us in their very, very busy schedules. On top of that, man, you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, YouTube. We're everywhere. Go find us, share, like, subscribe, comment, follow. What else am I missing? You know what to do.
Share, subscribe, follow, comment.
Yeah, do all that stuff. It's so helpful, and man, it's a ton of fun. If you want to join the conversation on Slack, go to mof1podcast.com/Slack and join our community there. But I think for now, we're going to hop out of this one, right?
Yeah.
I'm Andrew.
Shoot. And I'm also Andrew.
And I'm Luke.
Peace out.
Buds.